in the Gabby Petito case. A source close to the Laundrie family has told me that law enforcement says they found fresh traces of a campsite in the reserve. As you know, authorities are currently searching for Brian Laundrie in the Carlton Preserve in Venice, Florida. An attorney for the Laundrie family says the parents believe that's exactly where he's located. Quote, they don't believe he's in another area. They believe he is in the preserve. Why do they believe that? Now, that goes to a huge aspect of speculation and curiosity about this story, about what the parents knew, when they knew it, and why they refused to communicate with the Petito family, and why they won't speak to authorities about what may or may not have happened between their son and Gabby Petito. CNN has reached out about this information to Northport Police. They say the FBI is the lead on the case and would be the ones to confirm new details. FBI has not gotten back to us. Let's bring in Joey Jackson. First of all, always good to have you, brother. This is the kind of thing they are looking for right now, some trace that the kid is actually there. I have to believe that even if they did find remnants of a campsite, that's very different than finding him. But this is what the search is all about, right?
Yeah, there's no question about it. And so obviously you may find remnants of a campsite, but the question becomes whose campsite? It's a large world. And so we can't automatically presume and assume that it's his. I think investigators, in my view, Chris, are doing three separate things. Number one, obviously, they're still really dealing with the autopsy issues relating to, right, first point and issue, the victim here, Gabby Petito. They're looking for information as it relates to her and what they found, what the autopsy shows, what the crime scene shows. I think number two, Chris, they're presenting that information before the grand jury. And three, to circle back to your initial point, with respect to finding Brian Laundrie, they want to find him. They need to find him if they ought to bring him to justice. The issue is whether there's someone to find or whether something, some other thing happened to him, which would be obviously meaning that he wasn't alive. And so a lot to ferret out, a lot for investigators to do, but we can't speculate because there were remnants of a campsite that they had any connection or nexus to Brian Laundrie at all at this point without further information.
Right. I mean, look, I think it is a possible step for them, but I think we would know if they were anywhere close to finding him in that location, and we haven't seen that. Gabby Petito, we know that her body was found near a used campsite. Now that goes, once again, Joey, to this act of passion, that this may well have been someone she was familiar with because this is where she was staying. This is where she was. She wasn't found buried somewhere or secreted somewhere else. And that goes also pointing to Brian Laundrie. Now, a finger at him is also a finger at his family. And people can't get past that they wouldn't talk to the Petito family when they were saying we don't know where the kids are, and that they won't talk to the police about what might have happened. They say that has to mean that they knew something, and that something has to be bad. Your take?
Well, you can't blame people, right? Because let's talk about, before we get into the niceties of the law, human nature, which you and I have discussed. You talk about a relationship between two parties. That relationship was supposed to be predicated upon love, mutual respect, trust, protection. And so you're the one person who was with their daughter. Would you not think or believe that you would have information that could help the police to find her if you believe she was alive, or to protect her in some way? And so if you don't reveal that information, right, human nature would suggest, now let's get into the law of circumstantial evidence, consciousness of guilt, state of mind of the party, that would all suggest that if you're not part of the solution, sir, you're part of the problem. And so you can't blame people for, I don't think they're jumping to a major conclusion. They're drawing an inference that if you didn't assist, it must mean you did something wrong. And I would hasten to say that if I were prosecuting the case, that's exactly the inference I would ask the jury to draw. Not there yet, but speaking with respect to how you prove this case, Chris, this is a circumstantial case so far.
Well,
You
most
don't
are, right? 97% or so, of your cases are going to be circumstantial. But here's the last point I want us to go through, Joey, is that when you're talking about the family, oh, they changed the timeline. How did they get a day wrong? Look, my reporting hasn't changed. The lawyer for the authorities, the lawyer's not the issue here. It's the timing. And yes, they were told not to talk. So they changed the timeline. Look, if the feds believe they changed the timeline by buying this kid a day, you can't lie to the feds. It's a crime. So we would see something moved on them real fast. But my reporting stays the same. The night of the 13th or the morning of the 14th, the federal authorities were told that the kid hadn't come home. What they did with that information, when they communicated it at all to the North Port Police, that's on the feds, not on the family. Do you believe the timeline change makes a difference? And do you believe the family is staring at any kind of legal exposure?
So, Chris, it has to make a difference, right? Going back to the issue of human nature, which we lawyers always say, you know this very well, right? We argue common sense and good judgment. There are certain events in your life you cannot forget. Your son leaves. Do you not know what day of the week that would be? The day you got married. Do you not know what day that is? Your birthday. How about that? Do you know what day that might be? And so there are certain days on a timeline that are so significant to us as a matter of our human experience that when they're altered, it makes us go, was there some nefarious reason as to why? And so my take on that is that it's highly problematic at best and criminal at worst. Last point, Chris, and that's this. I'm not ready. Well, I'm almost there in terms of indicting the family, but I would have to think that they would, because when I say indicting them, I don't mean, when I say indicting them, I'm using that, I have to be careful in a layman's term, right?
Yeah.
My layman's term with respect to what they knew, what they didn't know, what they shared, what they could have shared, what they specifically did, and what they did not do.
But even if they know all of it, even if they know everything, Joey, that's not a crime.
No, it's not a crime at all, but it would be a crime in the event. Let's talk about hindering prosecution. Let's talk about obstruction of justice. Let's talk about accessory after the fact. What do those terms mean? In the event that you're
nothing if you don't ever put charges against Brian Laundrie.
Well, listen, that will be contingent upon whether he's found, right? That's number one. But I think with regard to the family, in the event you know information and you're given faulty timelines, that's obstructing justice. That's
if it's a faulty timeline, they may have messed up their dates. Apparently they did. But if the authorities, the federal authorities, the cops were told, the local cops on the 17th, and that got everybody upset. Oh, he's been missing since Monday and you don't tell us for all this time. Why? If the reporting stands that they told the federal authorities the night of the 13th or the morning of the 14th that the kid was not coming home, what difference does it make if they mess up the dates?
The difference is it what we call, not to get fancy, is it a material misrepresentation? Again, you have to establish that you knowingly and willingly misrepresented.
That's what would trigger a federal offense of lying to the FBI.
Dates,
I'm with you. I'm just saying, if they told the cops when they say they told, if they told the FBI when they say they told the FBI, then I don't know how the FBI could be upset about this. But we'll see. Joey Jackson, I appreciate you. You are a better mind. Let's go to Idaho.
Not better than yours. Thanks.
It's the first thing you've ever said that's false on this show. What's going on in Idaho? There's a feud between the state's two top leaders.